Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the Osmo Pocket 3 and the Osmo Pocket 4 and whether it's worth upgrading. I'm also going to talk about DJI and the ban which makes it impossible to upgrade to the Pocket 4 here in the United States. So let's talk about that first. First of all, I'm going to link, rather than reinventing the wheel and going into any kind of deep dive on this ban, I'm going to link to a couple of videos down in the description, and you'll find way more if you just go into the search field on YouTube and type in something like DJI banned in the United States, and you'll find a ton of stuff on this. But I'm going to link to two. Take home on this is it really has little to do with national security, surprise, surprise, and everything to do with corruption and incompetence. But I find it really interesting, if you think about it, why is DJI being singled out? Because there are a lot of Chinese-made products available in the United States, many of which use radio frequency, mobile phones. So there are Chinese mobile phones available here in the United States. And you can get others. There are ways of doing that, eBay. You may have to jailbreak them, but wouldn't those be a national security issue? Insta360 is going to be releasing a competitor to the Osmo Pocket called the Luna. There's going to be two of them, evidently, a Luna Pro and a Luna Ultra, which is going to have two lenses. I'm kind of interested in how they're doing that because I'm assuming there's only one sensor. Probably involves prisms and such. But yeah, it just makes very little sense to me. If you look at how many Chinese companies are in the photo video space and drone space, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And of course, some of those Chinese products, some of these Chinese lenses, Viltrox, TT Artisans, 7 Artisans, all these are actually quite good. So if you're judging from the reviews that I've seen. But even if the Pocket 4 were available here in the United States, I personally would not be upgrading because I just don't see it as a big enough upgrade to spend money. It's kind of an incremental upgrade. And I really think that when you are thinking about upgrading a product, you need to look at what you're doing with the current version and then ask yourself, well, is there any reason to get the new product? Because if it's not adding anything to what you're doing, why spend money, especially in this economy? So I've done that and looked at what I use this for and the settings that I use, and there's really nothing on the new one that offers me anything that I even would use. So 4K, 240 frames per second, so super slow motion, whereas this does, I think, 120. I've never even used 4K on this. When I do videos, I do them in standard 1080p. For YouTube, I don't see the real need to do anything more than 1080p. And really, I remember Matty Hapoya, he put up a video several years ago showing essentially the same video with 720p, 1080p, and 4K. And on a computer screen, it was almost impossible to tell the difference among them. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. As far as the things that they're touting for the Pocket 4, increased dynamic range, but it has the same sensor. I mean, if you go to DJI's website and look at the specs for both of them, they say it is the same sensor. But they are claiming higher dynamic range for the 4. So 14 stops rather than, I think, somewhere between 12 and 13 for this. I have yet to find that I need more dynamic range than this provides. The 4 is going to have full D-Log rather than just D-Log-M. So if you're grading your footage, that's going to give you a flatter, lower contrast look, make it easier for you to grade. Well, I don't do that. I just shoot the standard normal color. I don't want to spend a lot of time grading footage for putting something up on YouTube. That's why I'm filming on this S5 Mark II in the natural profile, because I really don't have to do anything to it. And of course, with Lumix, you've got the real-time LUT thing that if I wanted to, I could use. But I like the natural profile. Another interesting thing that I noticed, the Pocket 4 has, they're calling this a super photo setting. Because this has a little bit more than 9 megapixels, 9 effective megapixels. I think the total number is 9.4 in the sensor in this camera. And evidently it's the same sensor in the Pocket 4 as I mentioned. But the Pocket 4 has a setting that gives you 37 megapixel still photos. So that kind of reveals something, that this sensor is a quad Bayer sensor. So essentially it's got 4 subpixels, 2 by 2, under each filter, color filter in the filter array. This is what cell phone manufacturers are doing. I mean, if you look at the iPhone, you've got a 48 megapixel quad Bayer sensor. I did a whole video about this. And the point of that is not to give you a 48 megapixel image. The point of it is to give you a better 12 megapixel image. Same here. Because when you start treating those 4 pixels under a filter as individual pixels, a couple things happen. Your signal noise ratio goes down. In low light, it's not going to work that well. That's why on phones, at least on the iPhone, when you go to night mode, it takes you down to 12 megapixels. Because you absolutely need to have that 4 pixel array to get better signal noise ratio. And why is that? Well, if you look at one big pixel the same size as those 4 pixels, if that gets a noise signal into it, if it gets noise, it's a noise pixel. Nothing you can do about that. But in a quad Bayer sensor, if noise affects 1/4, one of those pixels, it's only 1/4 of that area, and you still have the other 3 that are usable. So signal noise ratio is higher. And I spent my entire professional career selling scientific imaging systems that use scientific grade CCD cameras. And our software, every company that I worked for, had bin settings. So we could bin 2 by 2, 3 by 3, 4 by 4, all the way up to 16 by 16, I think, on one case. You're talking really low resolution, but if you're looking for a really faint signal, you need that signal noise ratio. So, interesting. I don't take a lot of photos with this. Sometimes I'll use the panoramic feature. That's kind of cool, because you can take a nice panorama, and it's a 9 megapixel sensor, but if it uses 3 photos, you get obviously more than 9 megapixels. You don't get 27 megapixels because you're overlapping, but it's kind of a fun thing to do. So, after looking at all these reviews, it just seems to me that it's just not worth it to upgrade this. And I think what you need to do with upgrades in general is do what I mentioned, and that is, what does the upgraded product offer you that you're like, you find yourself saying, I wish this did this, and then they add that, and you're like, oh, well then it makes sense maybe to upgrade. But if there's nothing in there that you're using now, nor do you plan on using it, why spend the money? Those are my thoughts on this. If it was interesting or useful to you, please give it a thumbs up. Helps me with the algorithm. And comments, questions, leave them down below. I'm Todd Banner. I will see you in the next video.